So just to let you all know who I am Jeff Turcott, and this is my amazing wife.
Kelly Kurtz.
And we are, our business is Simply Well Seniors. We're realtors, but we're different. And our tagline is that we help seniors navigate the journey to the next place they call home. So just a little bit of housekeeping today. We are in Leominster, and this is a wonderful fellowship hall here in
United
Leominster.
Methodist Church.
The bathrooms are out this door here and down the hallway on the right. So if you have to use the restroom, feel free. We're going to try and have room for questions and answers after our panelists speak. So we have the room till about 12 o'clock. So we'll do our best to get you out. We'll also be mingling afterwards as well.
And we have wonderful refreshments provided by our speakers today from Heywood, Wakefield Commons. We have Morning Glory muffins, which I haven't tried yet, but everyone's saying they're wonderful. And coffee from Lutheran from Michelle Morin. We also have cookies assortment from the Gables and also from Sunrise Assisted Living. So if you haven't had a chance to grab something or you want another one, please help yourself. Feel free to get up during this and get some more coffee or juice or waters are back there as well.
Yeah, feel free. So like we said, Simply Well Seniors, this is the Aging Well seminar series, helping seniors navigate the journey to the next place they call home. And this year's seminar series is sponsored by two sponsors so far. We have a couple of other sponsors in the wings, but right now Heywood, Wakefield Commons in Gardner, Massachusetts. Christy Livingston is here to be part of our panel as well. She had a wonderful event last week.
Yep.
At the
library.
Gardner Library.
Yeah.
That Kelly attended, and it was beautiful. Also, NXT Level Studios, our videographer who puts us all on TV on the YouTube channel, does a great job.
Keith from Medore.
Keith from Medore Photography as well. So they're in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Just to let you know and remind you about our proven process in how we help seniors navigate this journey to the next place they call home. We had the pleasure, actually yesterday, of getting across the finish line with some folks that we've been working with for over a year in planning to sell their home, downsize, and then move into a community in Nashua, New Hampshire, independent living. And it was a new expansion to the community, so they're the first people in this apartment. So they actually got to pick some different choices when they were building it. And so we started yesterday morning about, I don't know what time we were up, 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Got to their home about 8 o'clock. The movers showed up about 8:30. And we unpacked them and got their entire apartment, 2-bedroom apartment set up, and we're done about 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was a great day, though. It was really nice to see the whole fruition of them packing, planning, all the donations, all the things that we downsized to get them to exactly what they wanted for their new residence. So they were happy, we were happy, and at the end of the day, all the boxes were taken away, their food was in the refrigerator, bed was made, everything was done. And when we were leaving, we said, "What are you doing?" They're like, "We're gonna just sit in our chairs and relax tonight." And they had vouchers to go down for their first meal in the dining room at their new community. So it was really nice. We felt left with full hearts and felt like we really helped them through the process, which was nice.
Right. So like we said, our marketing should be a can of soup and a bag of nuts, because that's what the whole shooting match. And we're busy the rest of the summer as well. We have some other clients that we're working with, that soup to nuts process as well. And we also have some clients that decided not to do the soup to nuts, and things are going a little sideways. But we're trying to keep them on track as well, and keep things moving along. And having our client, the senior, the focus, and not necessarily the dates. It's the senior. It's when they're prepared and ready. So that's just a little tooting of our own horn, I think. Okay, so today's panel, we're talking about assisted living options in our region. Right here in the Leominster, Fitchburg, Gardner area, and we interact with these folks on a regular basis, and we're so happy to have them here today. But first of all, we wanted to ask, as we did last time, if there's anyone that has any questions that they want to get answered, and we'll make sure that we're going to ask our panelists those questions or any thoughts that they'd
Yeah.
like
Is there anything
expanded
special
upon.
that you really want to get out of today? We can jot those down. Dave?
Payments, how do you pay for it? What are
How do you
different
pay?
options for paying for it?
Okay. Always a very important one. Anyone else? Yes.
So some of the ALFs will do certain things, medical competencies, I guess, like Foley or those types of things, where you're density for diet, the different mechanical swab, et cetera. Some do and some don't.
Okay.
Is there an easy way of knowing that versus
Knowing which communities offer what different types of diets and different types of medical care.
players and
Okay.
things?
I'm going to put that down as just levels of care, and we'll talk a little bit about those options that differentiate one community from another if they have those available. Anyone else have anything specific? We're going to cover a lot of stuff, but if there was something when you leave here today, you say, oh, I wish they had talked about that, that's why I came. We want to make sure that you'll have a chance to ask, but if there's something else we can incorporate into the questions, we'll do that. Yes?
Who qualifies?
Okay.
Okay, so that will kind of tie in maybe with payment options, but also level of care too. Okay. Good. Anybody else have anything
Anybody
else?
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Excellent.
Start
All
with that.
right. So, let me see. Okay. So, in no particular order, I just kind of shuffle these up and how we're going to go through the introductions. So, from Sunrise Senior Living in Leominster, we have the executive director of Sunrise, Peter McDonald. Give Peter a big round of applause.
Excellent.
Thank you. And next, from the Gables All-Star Senior Living, we have Patty Peterson.
Yay.
Patty is the marketing director at the Gables. And coming up next, we have our friend Michelle Morin from the Lilly Mansion and Lutheran Rehabilitation and Skilled Care Center. No, we gotta keep applauding until she sits down.
Keep it going.
And then, as we mentioned, one of the sponsors of our Aging Well Seminar Series, Christy Livingston from Heywood Wakefield Commons in Gardner.
So we also had invited River Court residences in Groton. They were unable to attend today, and Manor on the Hill, which is in Fitchburg. So some of you are familiar with those. Those are two other really local community places that were not available, but there are other options for you to consider. Okay, we're going to sit up here. All right, everybody's got their glasses. We're all set.
Well, first off, I think I'd like to have you folks introduce yourselves and just give a little background, maybe a 60-second elevator speech about yourselves and your experience. And Peter, we can start with you. Just pick that mic up.
Is this on? Oh, good.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you guys for doing this and having us, and welcome everyone. I'm Peter McDonald. I'm the executive director at Sunrise Senior Living in Leominster. We're at the corner of Route 12 and Beth Ave. I've been there 19 years as the executive director. Prior to that, had a consulting business in healthcare, and prior to that, did a bunch of real estate.
Okay.
So varied experience. When I'm not at my paid gig at Sunrise, I'm the treasurer on the board of directors for Aging Services of North Central Mass, formerly known as Montechusett Home Care, and a couple of other nonprofits as well.
You keep pretty busy, Peter.
You can rest when you're dead.
All right.
Exactly.
Patty?
And I'm Patty Peterson. I'm the Marketing Director and Community Liaison for the Gables Assisted Living in Fitchburg. We are a small family-owned assisted living. I've been there for 12 years. My background has been with elders for 37 years. I was in home care for 25 years, at the Gables for 12, and out of that, 20 of it was a caregiver. So I've been working with families in one form or another for all these years, so I know what families go through, and we love helping families.
Great, thank you. Michelle?
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Morin. I'm Director of Marketing and Business Development at Lutheran Rehab and Skilled Care Center and the Lily Mansion Rest Home. I'm the new kid on the block. I've been in the healthcare industry now for 7 years. I've worked at a few skilled nursing facilities. The rest home today that I'm representing is part of almost a continuum of care. It's located within our skilled nursing facility. I'll talk a little bit about that more later. And I have 2 golden retrievers that shed 5 pounds of fur every day.
Oh, my.
And I'm Christy Livingston. I'm the Assistant Executive Director at Heywood Wakefield Commons. We are an assisted living in Gardner, Massachusetts, in a section of the Heywood Wakefield Furniture Factory buildings, if some of you might be familiar. I've been there since before we opened. September will be our 14-year anniversary. Prior to that, I was doing some marketing jobs, but also I think my enthusiasm for working with elders started when I was in Girl Scouts and volunteering at a local nursing home. And then in high school, I had a part-time job as an evening and weekend receptionist at a local nursing home. So I've always been involved in that industry and went to school for sociology and gerontology.
Wonderful.
Great. Well, hang on to that mic, Christy. We'll kind of jump into some of the questions. We gave you all the questions in advance, so you should have like copious notes about we know exactly what we're. And we usually go off the rail and ask you something else. But so let's first talk about various reasons, why people are looking at assisted living options and thinking about maybe some people that have moved into your community, recently. What are some of the reasons? Maybe the top 3 reasons you would say, why they made that decision.
I think probably the number one reason, many times the person inquiring is a family member, like an adult child. So they're more concerned about safety or a recent health decline. Maybe a parent has been falling at home or had some hospitalizations that are becoming more frequently, and they're concerned about what's going to happen if they can't call for help. I'm worried about what's going to happen overnight if they don't think to push their lifeline or if they don't have a lifeline button. I'd say that might be number one. Mm-hmm. But then number 2, I think a lack of socialization. Sometimes, people are maybe living home alone. They've lost a spouse or a loved one recently and are feeling isolated and not thriving. So eating meals alone, not having a lot of interaction. So I'd say socialization is definitely one of the biggest reasons. And then I think the third reason is for great meals, nutrition. Again, if a lot of times folks come to us after maybe living alone, or it's tough cooking for one person, or or even just 2 people. So that's
great
from my perspective. Yeah.
Great, excellent. Michelle, a different question for you about why folks are coming to your community and those kind of things. But why are people choosing to come to Lutheran or to Lily Mansion?
Sure. So I work for the Lily Mansion Rest Home in Worcester, Massachusetts, and it is a combination of independent and assisted living. I think the reason people choose the Lily Mansion is because it's kind of cool to say you live in a mansion. But we're also centrally located right in Worcester. Public transportation is really key, and there are a lot of options. Of course, the city of Worcester, we're right around the corner from a lot of museums and restaurants. I know we're going to talk about the level of care later, but I think the rest home, people move into the rest home because of the public transportation, because of the activities we offer, because there is some sense of independence. And to piggyback on what Christy said, the socialization, the nutrition. We provide medical oversight. We have nurses 24/7 at the rest home because we're attached to the nursing home. So I think it would be a medical need, a social need, and a nutritional need.
Okay. Patty, I'm going to mix up the question a little bit on you.
She had her answer ready.
Ready to go. Talk a little bit about the location, where the Gables is. It's Fitchburg. It's centrally located. It's still, every time Kelly and I visit, we see people we recognize, and people that want to stay local and stay in the area. Maybe that's something you could talk about too.
So 8 times out of 10, someone coming in to look or visit runs into somebody that they know. There's a lot of local people. All of us are centrally located and easy to get to. But we're a smaller assisted living, so we've got more of the homey, cozy situation going on. But yeah, a lot of people find people, they come in and it doesn't take people long to make friends. Because the big thing, and what I was going to mention to piggyback on what they were saying, is they're with their peers. People are with their peers. They're not home alone. Sometimes people are waiting too long to come into assisted living. And they all say, and I'm sure everybody has heard it, that I wish I would have done this sooner because they're home alone. And people think that they have to be sick to come to an assisted living, and they don't. It's the social piece of it.
One of the things that I think is really nice about the Gables, every time that we've been there, we've moved some folks in there, is the balconies that they have and how they overlook Coolidge Park, nice walking track and things like that. And there's a lot of activities going on. So you still see a lot of things happening. You can stay active pretty easily by going over to the park and just having that nice outdoor private space. That's always been something the clients we've had there really love.
Yep. Peter, same question. In your experience, what's what are some of the reasons why folks are choosing Sunrise and coming into Leominster?
Sure. Same kind of things that Patty said. Thank you for letting me go last, because I can kind of just say, yeah. I can save some brain cells for further down the page.
Okay.
I got to put the microphone down for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody remember that, right?
Yeah.
Here's the steeple, here's the church, here's the people. It really does come down to the people and the fit. That's really what it comes down to. The average age of our residents at Sunrise is around 85 years old.
Okay.
It's around 85. I've got people in their 50s, and I've got people in their hundreds. And by the time you get to of a certain age, you kind of have a sense of what you want. Many times not what you need, because we're not always really rational about what our needs are as we get older. We look in the mirror and say, oh God, I look like my father. But we know what we want, and that's really what it comes down to. It's that fit. It's the feeling you get in that community. And the great thing in our area is there aren't any bad choices. They're just different. And we'll get into the details about what do those differences look like. But I would say that people come to Sunrise because of that fit, because of the at the end.
Works for them. Great. Go ahead.
Maybe we can start and talk a little bit about what qualifies someone to be accepted into assisted living care-wise. And then I know there's a lot of talk about cost-wise. What financial status do you need to be or not be to be accepted? So maybe we'll start again with you, Christy, and talk a little bit about the level of care, maybe the minimum level of care you would need to go to assisted living.
Sure. So I think, as a general rule that we can all speak to as assisted living in Massachusetts, we all have the same state regulations that we have to follow, so that we can all kind of generally represent, where the Executive Office of Age and Independence, formerly known as the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, sets out our regulations, where they've made it very clear that in assisted living in this state, we are not permitted to provide skilled nursing care to our residents. And it breaks things down somewhat clearly, and then there are some gray lines left to interpretation by each community, and that's where you have to talk to each community specifically on how they interpret those regulations. But in general, folks that need, really constant oversight by medical personnel, constant nursing care with that you really see in a nursing home, like a level of care is not appropriate for an assisted living, but visiting nurses can visit people in assisted living. Physical therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists can visit people in assisted living. So generally, we're seeing people who, they're not thriving home alone, but they're not needing, to be monitored by medical personnel 24/7.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Thank you. So a rest home differs from an assisted living with regard to cost oversight and levels of care. We talked about why people would choose a rest home. Oftentimes, people choose a rest home not necessarily because of the level of care, but because of money and socialization. The levels of care in a rest home are different from an assisted living, but more particularly the rest home at the Lilly Mansion, because we're attached to a skilled nursing facility, we do have an RN 24/7 in our building. We have PT in the building, OT in the building, speech in the building, and we also have a skilled nursing facility in the building. So when you're discharged to a hospital, you can go to our rehab unit and then still come back to the rest home. Unlike some assisted livings, we do not have a memory care unit in the rest home. It's the cognitive abilities and the independence is a little different. However, if you start to decline in a rest home, in particular my rest home, you can go to our long-term care unit or you can go to our dementia care unit. So in that way, it's similar to a continuum care community in that once you leave, in theory, you shouldn't have to, and once you come in, you shouldn't have to leave.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, Patty, Gables is a little bit different, where it's assisted living and not the other levels of independent and memory care. But to talk a little bit about maybe I'll change the question. What would disqualify someone
Good question.
from coming in?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, you only have to be 55 and up to move into the Gables, and you don't have to need care.
Okay.
We do have an enhanced independent option, which is substantially less a month if you don't need care with your activities of daily living. But we include 90 minutes of care a day. We're an all-inclusive for care assisted living with two med assists if you need med passes. But we are a traditional assisted living in the way that you can be in a wheelchair all day, but you just need to be able to stand and transfer with the help of one person.
Okay.
Because we do have younger people that are in wheelchairs that if you become a two-person assist, you have options. We try to keep people in their home, especially if they've been there for a while, as long as you can. As long as they can, because you can bring in agency at certain times of the day. The VNA does come in like they come into your home. You can get PT, OT. Actually, when you move into assisted living, it qualifies you with most insurances for PT if you need it when you move into an assisted living. And even coming out of a rehab, you can get another whole round of PT, OT, because it comes off a different part of your insurance. So, because I have a woman moving in today, she's coming right from a rehab, but she's going to continue her rehab at the Gables.
Great.
And I know you offer some.
So, Peter, at Sunrise, there's a continuum of care from assisted to memory as well. But talk a little bit about what qualifies, how people qualify when they come when they come and visit, where they're gonna place and what the transition looks like.
Sure. To follow up on what Patty was saying, our addresses become your home address if you're a resident. So whether you're at Sunrise or another provider, you're eligible for the same services there that you would receive at home, generally through Medicare Part B. As Chrissy said, we're regulated by the same state agency that regulates Aging Services of North Central Mass, aka Montechusett, and the same. Anybody here ever go to their local senior center? Raise your hand. We're regulated by the same state agency that regulates senior centers.
Okay.
Our regulations are like the guardrails. Think of the guardrails. This may bring back some bad memories, but think about driving on Route 28 in Burlington around the holidays. There's different lanes of traffic. And I equate the guardrails that age sets up for us as different paths that we can take. Sunrise really started assisted living back in the 80s. It's been in business for 40 years. It's a model that's been brought over from Europe. In Massachusetts, a whole bunch of us got built or converted because the state promulgated regulations around assisted living in Massachusetts. So my building was built in 1996. As you're thinking about assisted living, I want you to think about getting on a train. A train has to ride on two tracks. One of the tracks is, can the provider care for you now and in the reasonably predictable future? Now, I have residents that move in their 90s. That crystal ball of the future is relatively cloudy. It's not, none of us are 20 anymore. We can't see the path. The path is getting a little fuzzy. So can we care for you now and in the future? That's one of the rails. The other rail is, how much does it cost now and in the future? And so I think we're the only ones, I'm the only one on the panel that has specific memory care.
You're correct, yes.
We call it reminiscence because that's what we do with our residents. We go back into their memories that they remember. They won't remember today, but they can remember 30 years ago. So that's what we reminisce about. And if you're taking notes, I want you to write down alz.org. And I've got some brochures from them up there. I'm a community educator for them. So the first path is, do you now or in the future, when I say you or your friend or family member, whoever, do you now or in the reasonably predictable future need memory care? Because if you do, in the future, you want to go to a place that has that option and not have to change providers. The other part is, what do you need now and in the future? Do you need a Hoyer lift? Do you need a mechanical lift? Do you need a two-person transfer? Do you need assistance with bowel incontinence? Does the provider do that or not? Sunrise's philosophy is that if it's allowed in the regulations, we pretty much will do it. There are other providers that say, we'll go up to a certain level, but then you would need to bring in outside help, which is help, and you stay in the same place. It's just a different staffing model.
Okay,
Them?
all right.
Oh, do you have another one?
No,
I
let's
got-
talk about the assessment either. There is an assessment done.
Okay,
by-
grab the mic.
Sorry.
That's good.
Before you move into any assisted living, the resident care director or the wellness nurse does an assessment. It's pretty easy, just to start a plan of care for when you do move in if you need help.
Yeah, that's important to do the assessment to see where people are entering and can you provide what's necessary. And I know when we've had folks at the Gables that assessment is such a huge piece of setting up their everything and until that's done.
And what might disqualify you is a level of care that we can't provide. So skilled interventional nursing care on a regular basis. We have people these days that have just skipped past assisted living and need skilled nursing.
Yeah.
And that's fine because they've gotten those services in their home. Those services weren't available 20 years ago in their home. The other disqualifier, for me at least, is behavioral issues or mental health issues. We don't have the facilities to deal with people that are aggressive or violent. But that's a very small percentage.
Okay.
Can I jump in real quick about what disqualifies?
Sure.
Sure.
One thing, I really encourage you, I know that we have brochures out there. At some point in time, if you're really lucky, you will pass at home in the home that you've lived in all your life. Chances are that's not going to happen, though. The odds are against that. Be proactive in choosing a facility, but don't just look at the brochure. Any of us, and I have other colleagues in the room, we're always happy to have you come in and do a tour. Some of you will give you cookies. Some of you might give you wine. But go in and get a feel for the environment. But with regard to disqualification, you do need to read the brochures. Marie had asked about Hoyer lifts. 2-person assists and Hoyer lifts doesn't happen.
Those of us, those people, what's a Hoyer lift? Every community, is it over 300 pounds or is it 500 club?
It depends. In our building, we can do a Hoyer lift up to 350. Some people have a Hoyer lift that can go up to a bariatric 600 pounds. So that's something you need to consider. You need to take into consideration if you're an insulin-dependent diabetic. Does your assisted living provide assistance with glucose monitoring and injection of your insulin? You want to take into consideration, do you have a Foley catheter? Do you have a colostomy? Are you incontinent? Do you have trouble ambulating? All of those things, although not necessarily a disqualification, belong in that gray area that Christy was talking about. So even though you read the brochure and you see what qualifies and disqualifies, I do want to encourage you to make a phone call to the building you're interested in and definitely schedule a tour.
Yeah, that's great advice. Really good. We were, I know a lot of folks were asking about what qualifies in terms of finances. And that's a really big piece for most people making a decision. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that. I do know, or I believe that, Peter, you offer some programs for the VA. And I'm not sure if the rest of you do as well, but those are all, we have some veterans.
Everybody does that.
Okay, all right. So maybe we can talk a little bit about payment and qualification, what a typical procedure would be for discussing that, or levels of income, if that makes sense.
Start with Peter.
Start with Peter. Yeah, and then we'll go down.
Go down that way.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a variety of payment models here, and like I said, that's one of the main tracks the train has to ride on. Sunrise is private pay. We also assist families with long-term care insurance processing. We also assist families with applying for a program called Veterans Aid and Attendance. We have a relationship with different providers, but also with the Veterans Office in the city of Leominster, who have become really good experts at that program. 20 years ago, they weren't. We all need to get used to we need to get used to the idea that we are no longer, once we retire, unless we have gobs of money, and most people don't, we are not in the accumulation phase anymore. We are in the decumulation phase, which means that we are going to be rating our retirement accounts. We're going to be selling our home, using that as an asset to live out our years, et cetera. But for us, because we do provide very high levels of care, and not that anybody provides different levels of quality, but because of the services that we provide, we can't afford to take the subsidy programs that the state or government would offer to us. One, for instance, is in the $40-something a day range.
Yeah.
That doesn't pay for lunch.
You,
We would go out of business.
we would be out of business in a month. And my objective is at some point I will retire, and I want to leave Sunrise in better shape than I found it. And in order to do that, I need to collect money that sustains the business. And it can be a very expensive business. For somebody that is not on a level of care that wants to move into a studio apartment, under $5,000 a month. Everything's included except your TV and your phone. But I also have had families that come to us on the cusp of needing nursing care, skilled nursing facility care, and their cost is $15,000 a month. But that's for somebody that the only thing they can do independently is eat their food. We would even cut it for them. So there's a whole variety there. But there are different payment models here, and I want to pass the mic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, the Gables, as I said earlier, is all inclusive for care. So we include 90 minutes of care a day if care is needed. I've been there for 12 years and I haven't seen a single person go over that and that's for anything hands-on, help with dressing, undressing, shower, standby, assist with shower, escorting back and forth to the dining room. We do a lot of escorting. But like Peter said, people are waiting too long. Families are getting to the point where they're trying to keep their parents out of the nursing home because for a plethora of reasons. But we also work with the veterans in Fitchburg. Michelle has helped a lot of our residents with the aid and attendance. Same thing, we help with long-term care insurance. A lot of the residents have that, but they've either used wisdom with their money and they have the assets, or most of the time people are selling their home. I have a lady that's moving in a couple of weeks. That's how she's gonna stay at the Gables for as long as she's gonna be able to stay there. And it's hard, and we help. I think all of us do a good job of making people feel at home once they're there, but none of us are gonna be a person's home that they've lived in for 60 years. And it's hard. So to walk away from that, but nobody's regretted it that's come in, to any of our communities, because people actually become independent again. And they start a whole new life. They make new friends. They go out on the vans and go to activities where before they were just sitting home alone and waiting for their family.
Okay. Go ahead, Christy.
Okay, and then I'm gonna throw a wrench in it. So at Heywood Wakefield Commons, it's very unique, and I'm not gonna get too into the details because this is where I tell people you need to call us and we need to explain it in more detail.
You're just going to give us a teaser?
Yes, I'll give you a teaser. So our assisted living, the building, the section of the building we are in was converted through low-income housing tax credits, which is not typical for an assisted living. Assisted living is typically all market rate or private pay, while we still have a level of private pay and an expectancy for people to utilize assets to initially be able to pay out of pocket for the services that we provide. Our commitment to our residents is that they don't have to be able to afford that forever and ever. And nobody has left our community when they have run out of their assets. There are income criteria, though. So income, not asset criteria, like Social Security, pensions. We have to verify all sources of income and assets as part of this program that we're under to determine somebody's eligibility. And again, this is not typical for all assisted livings. It's very unique. There are others, but it's not the norm. But what it does is it does make it a more affordable model, and it makes assisted living more attainable to more people in the North Central Mass area, which we're very proud of. So in 14 years, nobody's ever left our assisted living because of financial reasons, which is a beautiful thing. We work, in the old days, we worked with that program called the Group Adult Foster Program with Mass Health, where it's was a $40.33 per day reimbursement rate. I think it went up to $43.53. We no longer work with that program. There's a great program called Summit Elder Care PACE that we primarily work with as our what we would consider a subsidy, but it's a managed care health insurance program that provides a lot of great medical benefits, health insurance that comes at no cost to their members, medical oversight by that program that kind of coincides with the medical piece that we're not allowed to provide, and it gives us a reimbursement to cover a portion of the cost that the resident's income doesn't cover. So at a certain point, many of our residents, they've depleted assets, and then their responsibility becomes their monthly income to us, and that's it. They're not paying beyond their income after a certain point, but they have to utilize their assets. They can't gift away their assets to get in. That's sometimes a common misnomer, but that's where I tell people call. We'll explain it. That's where it gets complicated. Sure. And there are a few other assisted livings that'll work with programs like that too, and that's where people need to call case by case. And we do everything. We bundle everything together, all inclusive for all the care, the meals, activities, medication reminders, and for us, we stay more on like the level of care similar to Patty's community at the Gables. We don't do the high levels, the 2-person assist, the Hoyer lifts, because that's an expensive way of doing things. So, and we couldn't charge what we'd have to charge to do that. So we are on the more independent side of assisted living, but we have a lot of people that stay with us for a very long time, and it's a beautiful thing. So
Great. Thanks for explaining that.
I was just I'll let Michelle go, but I just wanted to say when, Peter mentioned a studio maybe for $5,000 a month, a lot of people can think I could never afford $5,000 a month. But when Jeff and I, a lot of times, and being realtors, we counsel people to say, if you're not paying your real estate taxes and you're not paying someone to do your snow blowing and mow your lawn and do all the home maintenance things, a lot of times by looking at it on paper, you think, I'm really spending a lot more than that to live in a home that I may not even have a mortgage on. So when you really look at the numbers, the value you get to be cared for and get good nutrition and socialization and all those things and have a stress-free life in terms of caring for a property that maybe needs a new roof or needs updating that you don't have the finances for, it ends up being a positive thing. So just keep that in mind, because I know sometimes that first number, sometimes people go, oh my gosh, it's out of my price range, but it's really not.
And Peter mentioned it is a difficult transition from accumulation to spending. That mindset is, the majority of our lives, we are in accumulation savings mode and saving. So to have to flip that switch, the folks that the folks that we met and we moved with, the folks that we've been working with, and we moved yesterday, I did have a conversation with our friend, our client, about how he made that transition and how hard it was for him to do that. But he was a very, numbers guy, very matter of fact as well. But even then, he came to the answer a couple of different times and knew that was the answer. Now it's time, and we can afford it. We've
saved all our life, and now it's time to start using it for our own care.
But even after coming to that and knowing what the answer was, to still make that move, that choice, it was a few months.
Can I just mention one thing quick?
Grab the mic.
A couple of years ago, we've probably have had a rate increase in between, but I took the monthly for one of the apartments, because our rates go by the size of the apartment. We have studios all the way up to 2-bedroom, 2-bath, because we were a 55 plus. But I took, I think, a rate for a 1-bedroom, and I broke it down to the hours, and it was like $15 an hour. Wow. For round-the-clock care, security, someone being there round the clock, all the meals, like they said. So even with home care, you're not going to get that.
Right.
So.
Thank you for addressing the sticker shock. I was going to mention that. I'm also going to throw a wrench into this, but I want to preface it by saying, piggybacking on what Patty just said, assisted and somewhat independent living is really like resort living. You have light housekeeping, you get 3 meals a day, you have activities you can go to if you'd like. In my building, we have a hair salon right on site and barbershop for the gentlemen. so there's a lot more amenities that come with living in an assisted living community as opposed to living at home. So let's talk about money and qualifications. We talked about the need for a clinical assessment to determine if you are appropriate for the level of care in the building that you provide. All buildings will require you to do a financial application and provide documentation. We're going to ask for copies of any trusts, any real estate you own. We're going to ask for 90 days of bank statements, a social security verification letter, and income verification. In my building, in the rest home, and mind you, there are very few rest homes in Massachusetts. I do fall under a different category of regulation. That's a story for another day. But with regard to finances, we do provide supplemental financing from the onset if needed. From the federal program, we can provide an SSI supplement. And on a state program, we can do EAEDC, which is Emergency Assistance for Elderly, Disabled, and Children. And how that works is we take your financial application and we look at your income, and it's really on a sliding scale. Once you submit your application, we will then determine what your patient paid amount is. And what that means is once we get the money from the government, what's left, if there's not enough, if the government doesn't have enough, and most oftentimes they're really close or they do cover it, you might have a small patient paid amount that you have to pay monthly. Could be anywhere from $200 to $500 or what have you. Our income requirements and assets are different. Your assets can't be more than $2,000. If you are, I refer you to these lovely colleagues at my table. Your income can't be more than $1,234. So when I say those numbers, you're probably thinking to yourself that, and I'm going to speak frankly, that perhaps the clientele in that building might not be on the same level as your level of financial independence. That's not always the case. Some people, through life circumstances, perhaps there's real estate in a trust, they can't access those funds. It was set up in such a way, and we did have a great program here with estate planning. I really do encourage you to do that. Everyone thinks that they got it all figured out until it comes time to utilize that, and then you realize you didn't do things the right way. Sometimes the need for financial assistance is no reflection on your finances or the way you handled your finances. It's just a life event. So at a rest home, we do take private pay. All of us prefer private pay. I mean, let's face it. But if your money runs out, similar to Christy, there's no need to leave our building. But if you come in and you're clinically appropriate and you meet the financial requirements for financial assistance, you can be admitted to our building.
Mm-hmm. All right, great.
I had another thought. A lot of times as people age, they end up being a widow or a widower, but we do often see couples that are still aging together. What if one couple needs more care than the other? The spouse needs more than their partner. So can you speak a little bit about how you handle those situations when you have a husband and wife coming in?
Okay, so my building, again, is a little different. Our rest home is attached to a long-term care facility and a dementia care facility. Doesn't always happen that we have a bed available on each unit for a husband and a spouse, but one can get started in the rest home, getting the level of care that they need, or one can start out in the long-term care unit, and there's always a wait list. So in our building, we could keep them together, maybe not simultaneously in the beginning, but it happens all the time. And when you do move to long-term care, by the way, because of bed availability, we don't none of us wave a magic wand and tell you, okay, sir, you need to move from this room to this room because someone else is coming in. We are required to get your permission. I mean, this is your home, remember. We are required to get your permission if we're going to make any changes to your room or your environment. So to that end, we might not have two rooms, a room available for two people, but certainly there's a potential for you to be on the same floor, and in our case, in the same building.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else have?
Betty, did you have?
So there's an initial amount for one person, and then the second person is substantially less. So oftentimes, and Peter can probably say this too, we get couples where one has been a caregiver and people are getting burnt out. So they come in and now we're taking care of the spouse. They're at the lesser amount, and we're taking care of the other spouse so they can, if they're driving, they can go out. They can go do things where before they couldn't, or be part of the community, because they couldn't leave their loved one alone. So,
Yeah.
Peter?
I'm going to guess, based on my history, that there's at least one person, but probably more than that, in this audience that is the caregiver for someone with dementia.
I'm
My-
gonna guess 2 or 3 people.
My history in volunteering with the Alzheimer's Association and doing talks for them would lead me to believe that. And the stark the results of research done by the Alzheimer's Association points to the fact that there's a higher chance that the caregiver is going to pass before the person with dementia because they're burning the candle at both ends. I'm just gonna tell you that if that's your situation, please reach out, whether it's to get a house sold and get that process started, or what are your options in senior living. But I have a handful of couples at Sunrise at any point in time. Sometimes one has dementia, sometimes both have dementia, sometimes none have dementia. But having that specific neighborhood allows us to have a couple in assisted living, or a couple, one in assisted, one in reminiscence, or a couple, both in reminiscence, in memory care. It's nice to have choices. Now, I have some couples that will say, I want to be with my wife. We've been married 70 years. God, I respect that. But the wife has dementia, profound dementia. That's okay. I will live in reminiscence with her. Let us take one of those one-bedroom apartments in reminiscence. I want to live with her. You understand that you can't just come and go. One of my team will need to let you in and out because we don't share the codes to the doors. But in any case, that couple gets an individual assessment, and they're assessed as assisted living or memory care. And then what level of care do they need? That person with dementia could need a very high level of care. But that husband is still going out and driving around and needs no level of care. So it's very individualized. One of the things that we get to do is be very individualized to our residents.
Very good.
Christy,
Before Christy goes, I just want to piggyback on what Peter said. I encourage all of you to tour facilities, and please be proactive as opposed to reactive. Do not wait until the building catches fire before you go and get the extinguisher, And remember that it's all about quality of life. Don't wait till the last minute to make these choices. Again, as Patty said, it all evens out to maybe $15 to $30 an hour. Peter's building, similar to a resort. Christie's building, independent, large building. I encourage you to please be proactive, not reactive, and think of your quality of life for both the caregiver and the person that's going to need assistance.
I'll just say this is a pretty good sampling of folks that are in our area. There's others as well. I mean, you could schedule a visit once a month and have lunch.
all different places.
All different places.
Please don't try to schedule 3 visits in one day.
No,
Right. No.
no.
Because
Spread 'em out.
whether you come the first or the last, it's all going to run together, even if you take good notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, please don't come in a crisis-driven methodology.
Yep.
Plan ahead. Like anything else in life,
Yep.
if you plan ahead, when the bullets start flying, the plan goes to hell, right?
Yep.
But if you plan ahead, you will get more out of it. And I've had people come to Sunrise. Dad's in the back seat.
Oh boy.
His bag's in the trunk.
Oh, wow.
What happened? Well, the police found him walking onto Route 2 last night, brought him home, and he did it again. And the only way they would release him to us is if we made arrangements. Now, that was a family that had other families with us. So they were like, we're not going to shop around. We know you guys already. And it was like, oh, wait, we need to do an assessment. We need to talk to the physician, a whole bunch of things. So please plan ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Christy.
Well, and I know we were talking about couples, but I think it ties in with, not waiting. Sometimes, if a married couple or a couple in general wants to move in together, you want to make sure there's an apartment available that is the right size and fit for you. So there could be a waiting period, right? So that's, again, being proactive, not reactive. So there might be a waiting period, a waiting list that you want to get on. So planning ahead is so crucial. And much like with the Gables at our community, a second person fee is much lower, a discounted rate, because usually we're seeing one of the residents needs more of the care than the other, so that and they each get an individualized service plan specific to their needs. So but yes, there are waiting lists at some places, especially if there's a differentiation between, you really have specific needs and wants for the type of apartment, the size of the apartment, location of the apartment, to the elevators or what have you.
Could you speak a little bit about the types of apartments you have, and maybe we can hear a little bit about what offerings you have? You can start.
I'll start since I have the microphone. So at Heywood Wakefield Commons, we have 78 apartments throughout 4 floors, all elevator accessible. 76 of those apartments are studios. So studio means it's one open room with, there's no separation between between the bedroom and the living room area. But ours are very large for studios because we're in a converted furniture factory building. We have very high ceilings, huge windows, a lot of walk-in closets, very large kitchenettes with 2-burner cooktop stoves, microwaves, and no 2 are identical. So very spacious studios. And then there are 2 apartments that are 2-bedroom units, which are typically the ones that are, if we have couples looking to come in and share an apartment together, we would typically designate those for them, but they're not restricted in that way either.
Okay. Great.
Michelle?
So rest home living is a little different than assisted living in that in the Lilly Mansion, it is a mansion. It's absolutely gorgeous. And again, it's cool to say you live in a mansion. We do have 2 floors. We have elevator access. Our rooms do not have appliances in them because we're a rest home, because it's regulated that way. You can't have a coffee maker or a microwave or a mini fridge in your room. We do, however, have a common area where if you wanted to store, little snacks or make yourself a cup of coffee, usually the staff, if you just said, can I have a cup of coffee? They'll make you a cup of coffee. It's like being waited on. So in that regard, it is a little different. In our building, we also have, in some of the larger rooms, you might share a room and you think, oh God, it's different. I like to explain that to people before they even come in tour, to let them, this is the environment you're going to be living in. More often than not, though, if it's a widower or a single person that comes in and gets a room that has a roommate, and the roommate, it's not like living with your brother or your sister in a bedroom. There is a division in there, and you got your own bed, your own bureau, your own armoire. You both get your own TV, your own room. There's, curtains on both sides everywhere, and there's a bathroom in the room. When a private room becomes available, there's always a list. We want to be in a private room. And believe it or not, more often than not, when a private room becomes available, we'll say, Patty, you're on the waiting list for a private room. Would you like to move? And more often than not, they'll say, no, that's okay, I'm good, because they've developed a relationship or a partnership with their roommate, so to speak. So just be mindful of that when you're thinking about rest home living. We do have the same amenities as, I think all of us have the same amenities, the light housekeeping, the 3 meals a day, the service, and the whole 9 yards. But as far as your actual living environment in the rest home, think of it as, I don't know how you would think of it. It's not really dorm living because it is separate, but just remember there's no appliances.
Family style.
I'm sorry?
Family style.
Family style?
Family style.
In the room?
In general, like you have your brother or sister, then you have a living room.
There's no common area living room. Oh, okay. Yes, yes. There are many common areas in the rest home, as in assisted living. There are conversation nooks, libraries, main dining rooms, that type of thing. But if you're thinking about a room, remember that there are no appliances. And also remember, we're cheaper because of that. We're less expensive, I should say. And if you are in a bind and you need that care level and you need that financial assistance, sometimes a rest home is your only option.
Okay.
The Gables, as I mentioned earlier, was a 55 plus for 25 years. So we have 47 apartments. We have studios all the way up to 2-bed, 2-bath. So 3 of my apartments are 1,200 square feet. So it's a 2-bedroom plus a very large living area, and one of them actually has 2 balconies, but 20 of the apartments are what we call a 1-bedroom deluxe. It's 900 square feet and it has a bath and a half with a balcony. And they have full galley kitchens. Nobody really uses the stoves because all the meals are included, but it's there if the family wants to come over and bake something maybe on the weekend. But it's nice having that full-size refrigerator. So they have refrigerators, stoves, dishwashers, and garbage disposal, but you have to bring your own microwave. So it's a regular apartment, and the only reason we have that is because we were a 55 plus. And then we have the big common areas, like Michelle said. We have a library, a very large living room, and a cafe. So.
Sunrise is 70 apartments. 38 of them are traditional assisted living, come and go as you please. 32 of them are memory care, are reminiscence. Back in 2012, I can't believe it's that long already, back in 2012, I took a wing of assisted living and converted it into reminiscence because I saw the numbers changing. And I was trying to balance the number of apartments we had for what we saw as the progression of dementia in our society. Our apartments in both neighborhoods, a studio can start around 300 square feet. And I should say we were designed as assisted living and memory care, which bake in a whole bunch of differences, and too detailed to explain this morning. But one of the takeaways for you today is come and see us. You can look on the websites, you can think about it all you want, but you really need to visit. And please don't do 3 in a day. So studios start at around 300 square feet. Our 2-bedroom penthouse apartments are almost 1,000 square feet. We do not have any 2-bathroom apartments. They're all private baths. From a studio to a 2-bedroom, it can be companion occupancy, whether it is unrelated people of the same gender. These days, it can be unrelated people of different genders. That's their choice. We continue to change with society, but typically companion living is our couples. The converted assisted living apartments to memory care, those all had a kitchenette in them. We have taken out the microwave. We have no cooking surfaces in any of our apartments.
Okay.
But our residents in traditional assisted living have microwaves. They can have a coffee maker. They can have a toaster. As long as they can demonstrate to us that they're safe with it, perfectly fine. It's your apartment. It's your home. We want it to be the way you want. But after that 4th time of putting the popcorn bag in for 40 minutes instead of 4, right? Right? The microwave goes out because it's not going to be there anymore. Nobody's going to use that one anymore.
Yeah.
We have 3 different dining rooms, 2 in memory care, 1 in assisted living, and the living room, activity room, library, nooks. Again, you need to come and see all of the differences, because that's one of the main things you want for your fit, right? It's not just the people that are in the building, it's does the building fit you right?
While you have the microphone, Peter, I think it's about 11:35, I think, last time I checked in. We're going to kind of start to wrap this up. But I wanted to ask, and each of you have an opportunity, give us a typical day in the life at Sunrise. And
Okay,
what
so
can a typical experience be for someone?
I'll go by yesterday, because I was in the building most of the day yesterday. I'm not always, but first of all, what's typical is really depending on what that resident wants, because there can be multiple activities at the same time, and they're going to have to pick which one is sort of in their track. Yesterday at about 9:30, the kids from I want to get the daycare right, Academy for little Academy
For little people.
for little people.
It's awesome.
25 or 30 kids this tall, bright faces, shiny eyes, and they're coming to visit roughly 70 grandparents. How cool is that? Spend time in both memory care and assisted living. They totter out, and we start morning stretch. And some residents will do morning stretch seated in their wheelchairs or standing up or touching, holding on to the back of the chair. They've already had breakfast. It's restaurant-style dining. They'll do lunch. There's activities in the afternoon. A lot of people coming and going. Pets are always welcome. Some of our residents have pets, have their own pets. As long as you can take care of it, it's fine. Visiting, as long as they're well behaved. Dinner and activities after dinner. I do a wine tasting once a month that is now better attended than bingo. I take a lot of pleasure in that. We also serve beer and wine at lunch and dinner.
Nice.
But it really depends on what you want.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Patty?
Well, we have kind of a busy activity calendar. Yesterday we had a day in the life would be people would come down and have breakfast together. We do a very large crossword puzzle. About 8 or 9 residents sit in the lobby and do that together. They work it all out together. Today we have Andy Ross coming. He's pretty popular in the area. I know he goes to some of the senior centers, plays guitar and sings. Yesterday we had one of our residents with Sally Cragen does a poetry and sing-along, and we have a very large living room, and it's very, very well attended. There's a lot of residents in there for that, or the van will go out. We go to the 99, we'll go to different restaurants. It's whatever the residents want to do, because the activities director works with the residents, even when someone new comes in, finds out what they like to do and what they can bring to the table. So it's whatever they would like to do. What was I going to say? There was something else. But the van does go out a couple times a week if people don't drive, goes to shopping, goes to Market Basket. Another day it goes up to Walmart and Hannaford's. So there's always something going on every day. Once a month we have Gables Night, where it's a theme. It was a carnival theme last month, and it was very well attended. We've been blowing up the Facebook page, so if you're on Facebook, you can go on there and look, see some of the activities that we've been doing.
Great. Thanks, Patty.
So again, the rest home is a little bit different environment. So a typical day in the rest home, breakfast is always served in your room. And that was voted on by the resident council. No one wanted to get up early and go down to the dining room. So instead of letting people pick and choose, they did a vote, and breakfast is delivered to your room. That is the only meal that is delivered to your room unless you are not feeling well or have a legitimate reason for not going down to the dining room. So you would wake up, you would get breakfast in bed. If you would like a shower, or if it's your day to shower, you can go shower. We also have a jetted tub in the shower room. You do get assistance with showering if you need it. After breakfast, you would participate in one of the many activities similar. We have entertainment, we have bingo, we have baking group. We have a hair salon on site. In the rest home, because it's attached to the skilled nursing facility, the rest home residents have access to the entire campus, but the entire campus doesn't have access to the rest home, if that makes sense to you. So the rest home has its own main dining room, absolutely gorgeous. The rest home has its own calendar of activities, typically of a higher cognitive level than up in the long-term care unit. They have their own library, they have their own common kitchen, etc. But if someone from the rest home would like to go over to the main campus, because the main campus has larger areas, and that's predominantly where most of our entertainment is. We have entertainers, we have magicians, we have comedians, that type of thing. So they could go to an activity before or after lunch. Lunch is always served in the dining room. So after lunch, you could go to an activity. You're also welcome to jump on MART Transportation or Worcester Regional Transport Authority Transportation. I was calling it WART for a while, and they're like, no. Yeah, they're like, no, Michelle, I'm just so used to it out here. You can go to one of the many museums, the library, the restaurants, or senior centers. Come back. Dinner is served in the dining room. There are also activities after dinner. You are not obligated to go to any activity if you don't want to. A lot of residents will go to their room. If it's a private room, you can shut your door, watch TV, do whatever you want to do. And then in the middle of the night, should you need assistance, we have call bells. Nurse can come in and see what you need. If you need a snack, it is resort living. Like, can I have a cup of coffee? And they'll probably go yes, but they'll bring it to you in the middle of the night. Absolutely. But again, it's a different type of living. But that really is a typical day. You can come and go as you want. You just have to sign yourself out and sign yourself back in. I think with all of us, you can do that. And it's not a prison sentence, and it's not even a lifelong obligation. Some places have you sign a contract. Ours is month to month. If you come in and you decide you don't like it, then you're free to go. Mm-hmm. No harm, no foul. Thanks for coming. It was nice to meet you, and we wish you well. And usually we see you eventually in a year or so. But yeah, that would be a typical day in the life in a rest home.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Christy?
Okay. So typical day at Heywood Wakefield Commons is probably quite similar. It's all about choice, quite frankly. So I think at all of our communities, residents pick and choose what they want to do, what they don't want to do. They're not forced to come to every single meal and every single activity. They're not forced to stay inside the building. But I think we all offer 3 meals a day. We start with breakfast. For those who want to come to breakfast, they come to breakfast. And at least on the assisted living side, we mostly have some, kitchen or kitchenette facilities, and maybe with some limitations on memory care. So some residents do their own breakfast in their own apartments if they're not early risers. We have an exercise program every day at 10:30. Some residents sign out for the day. They go have a young woman, not that young, but a resident who is very active in the Gardner Senior Center. She was line dancing earlier this week at the Senior Center, and she's very involved there. She teaches watercolor art classes at our community from time to time. We have a lot of active residents that volunteer and give back to our own community too. So we have a lot of different we all have a lot of different activities happening that many residents can pick and choose from. And of course the 3 meals a day. And then also a lot of families visiting, or let's out for graduations. Got a lot of that going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of grandkids coming in to visit, wedding season. So a lot of in and out. Today our residents are going out to Williams for a group that signed up. They're going to Williams for lunch for those who signed up. You're probably right about that. I didn't think of that. Tomorrow we're having our weekly cookout in our courtyard. So
Wonderful.
But
that's great.
But again, everybody picks and chooses what they want to do throughout the day.
Yeah, Michelle.
I also wanted to mention in all of these facilities, holidays and family time is really important to all of us. You should come to any facility that you go to, and see the effort that is put into the decorations, the activities, the meals. You can, have your families can come and have a beautiful Easter, Thanksgiving, or Christmas meal. They put below all the stops. All of our buildings do that, and very family oriented. You're not, you don't have to stay in your room. We all have those big common spaces. We have a private dining room if you wanted to have, a small birthday party or what have you. We also have larger spaces if your family came and they wanted to go outdoors to meet. So you're not, you don't have to always stay in your room when your family comes to visit. You have access to so many different things and so many different activities.
Great.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask about if you had any, I know you all mentioned coming to tour and how important that is. And if there are any specific questions that we didn't ask that you would encourage anyone going on a tour to ask when they're at your community, some things that kind of insider tips that you could share that are important to know that we didn't highlight.
So one of my suggestions, and again, if you're taking notes, I don't think they've updated their website yet, but our regulatory agency, Executive Office of Elder Affairs, if you Google EOEA Massachusetts Assisted Living Consumer Guide, you can look at their list of suggested questions, and I suggest you print that out and bring it with you. Again, not 3 places in one day, but print one out for each place you're going to visit. But the biggest questions I get are, what are the qualifications to move in? And I think we've talked about that. We do not do a financial profile on anyone. If you tell me you think you can afford it, that's fine. The way I look at it is this is a relationship built on trust. I'm going to tell you how much it costs today, how much in the future, and you decide if you and your family decide if you can afford that. Great. The other question people ask me is, why do people leave? How do you get in? And why do people leave? And there are 2 main reasons people leave Sunrise. One is that they run out of life, and one is that they run out of money. I've never found it to happen in 19 years. I've never found it to happen on the same day. There's a great book out called A Die with Zero. Read that.
Yeah.
That's your objective. Your objective is to die when you've got $10 left, or thereabouts, right?
Right.
There's nothing we can do about dying. That's, as soon as we're born, we have a terminal condition called life, right? But there is something that we can do and plan ahead for the financial aspect. And I ask families, and I'll tell them right up front at that first meeting, come and see me. You're going to know what your monthly spend is. Come and see me when you're down to about 6 months. There are other options. There are other options, again, depending on what that person needs. If they're at a really high level of care and they've spent down their money and they need 2-person transfers and Hoyer lists, 2 of my colleagues here are going to say, I'm sorry, you've gone past what we can do. But I can call Michelle and say, what do you have that's available? And vice versa. We share all the time. But those are the questions I get.
Great.
When you come to the Gables for a visit, I have a whole packet that I give you, and that consumer guide is in that. And everybody that's sitting here knows I have no problem talking, and families will come in with a whole list of questions, and they never get to ask any of them because I answer all of them. I've been doing tours for 8 years, so I've gotten to know, I know what they're going to ask. And like Peter just said, we tell families the same thing. We're not going to keep track of your parents' finances, or we tell the resident we can't keep track of your finances, but when you get down to the last year and a half or a year, come talk to us. We'll talk about next steps. Most of the time, those next steps never come because people pass or they end up going into skilled. We have actually had, and I'm just going to be totally candid with you, 2 residents that have landed with Christy in Gardner because we made sure that they still had enough money to be able to go there in private pay and live there for a couple of years or whatever it was before they ended up going into skilled. I think one passed away. So we all work together. Like the Gables doesn't have a memory unit, but we've worked with Peter and other communities when our residents get to that point, because we do have people with dementia, but they don't wander. They just have a little bit of short-term memory loss, so it depends on that assessment.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we appreciate all of your insights and the time that you took, and let's give them a big round of applause. And I think everyone has a little time to stick around if anyone else has questions. We are running out of time. So next month we're going to be back here in actually the smaller room, and it's a seminar about mindfulness and meditation, a path to inner peace and well-being. And then in August, we're going to have a special guest, Russ Swallow. He's going to talk about Medicare basics. And I'm glad that we got the microphone situation working. He has almost like a shtick, and if he wasn't mic'd up, you'll miss the shtick. So it's going to be a good time. So we appreciate you all coming, and we hope to see you again next month.